People engage, it's time for Dueling Decades. The Matrix and Blade versus Bloodsport and Renegade. Strap on that cap, bust out the power glove. Come fight for what you love.
Dueling Decades.
Poop culture, popping pins, dropping hand grenades. Van Halen locked in Mortal Kombat with David Gray. Banner Ballet and Sick, Iron Maiden, GNR. Come fight for what you love.
Dueling Decades.
While you're in control of the board,
I think I'm actually just gonna quit while I'm ahead. That's a pretty good showing for me this week. What are our categories?
I hope you know.
I'm gonna go with. Well, it's hard. Are we doing hot products? Is that a thing?
Yeah.
Is that a thing for this
Yeah.
one? All right. I'm gonna go hot products for this round.
All right.
I'm gonna start with a game released for Nintendo 64, April 26, 1999. The first in a several series of this game, this franchise. I'm talking about Super Smash Brothers. Characters from a variety of other games. This was kind of, as far as I can tell, one of the first games that really incorporates characters from other games. Of course, Disney's got that whole Kingdom Hearts bullshit now, but kind of the same premise. But Zelda, Kirby, Donkey Kong, Pokemon, all kinds of different characters kind of rolled into this one game where you kind of use all their special powers and you battle it out to see who's the best of the best and whatnot. 5 million copies sold worldwide within 2 years of its release, which is pretty impressive. Like I said, there's been multiple sequels spanning multiple generations of both systems and platforms. So this thing kind of has grown to become a real juggernaut. Like, they're still making these games. They're still incorporating all kinds of different characters from different, I don't know if you want to call them realms or universes, things like that. The most recent release being Super Smash Bros. Ultimate for Nintendo Switch, released in December of 2018. So we are talking really going on 2 decades now of this franchise, and it's showing no signs of slowing down anytime soon.
Wow.
Super Smash Brothers.
I remember that game well. What's the second? What are you pairing it with, though?
Second hot product, I think I'm going to go with another one that's really spanned multiple years and multiple platforms. Grand Theft Auto 2, which was released October 22nd, 1999. Sequel to the original title, obviously. Not a lot different than the first one, which kind of gave it some knocks as far as critics are concerned. Released initially for PlayStation and PC, shortly followed by adaptations for both Dreamcast and Game Boy Color. And going back to it, I said mixed reviews about the game. A lot of people pointed out that it really wasn't a lot different gameplay-wise or visual-wise, graphics-wise from the first game. But, you know, you still had a lot of people that remarked about the radio stations in the game, which were always kind of one of the more interesting and enjoyable parts of it. Obviously, those have evolved over time where they have licensed music that's, you know, legit artists and things throughout the years. Of course, it'll be followed by Grand Theft Auto 3, which really kind of helped the franchise come into its own and is a little more based on what we know it as today. But that's my second pick, Grand Theft Auto 2, October 22nd, 1999.
All right.
Solid.
It doesn't matter who goes next, I guess. So you guys pick.
Mike, go ahead.
All right.
There it is.
Well, I'm just thinking in order. Mike started the last round, so.
Gotcha. All right.
All right. In a year that saw the release of Street Fighter II Turbo in the arcade, Super Metroid, Mega Man X, Doom 2, and Donkey Kong Country, I'm choosing a game in a genre that I never, ever play because the internet told me so. Final Fantasy VI, also known as Final Fantasy III, was released in late 1994, developed by Square Enix for the Super Nintendo. Widely considered one of the best video games of all time, GamePro rated the game 5 out of 5, and EGM had 4 reviewers give it 9 out of 10. It's won several awards, one of the very best role-playing games ever created. So that's what the internet told me, and I hope they're right. I hate RPGs. I never fucking play.
I'm with you on that one, but I think everybody kind of knows Final Fantasy VI.
Yeah, it's huge.
Big deal.
But now on to my second choice, which is one I'm really excited to talk about because, again, in a year that saw Sega's Daytona USA Arcade, Need for Speed on the 3DO, and Mortal Kombat 2 on the Super Nintendo, I wanted to choose a product that I actually collect for that was a total fucking failure. November 21st, 1994, the Sega 32X add-on was released onto the U.S. market with a price point of $159 and 6 titles available at launch. The Sega 32X add-on was an add-on to the Sega Genesis and the Sega CD, which was a great idea since the Sega Saturn was months away and would be more powerful. The 32X was thought to be a cheaper option for those who didn't want to pay for the more expensive Saturn. There's only like 40 games for the system. I own over half the library, and most of the games are horrible. The system claims to be 3 times more powerful than a 3DO, which I believe, because if you have a Genesis, a 32X, and a Sega CD, it takes 3 individual power bricks to power the fucking thing. Sega was
And
only
9
able,
box fans.
yeah. Sega was only able to ship 600,000 units at launch, and it was discontinued due to poor sales. I actually remember going into Caldors and seeing them on clearance for like $9.
Wow.
And you threw this pick out to win the round?
Well, you know what? Honestly, it's interesting because it's a product that's one of the many reasons why Sega is no longer in the hardware business. It's one of the reasons why people didn't go out and buy the Sega Saturn. It was a combination of the Sega CD, the Sega 32X, the Saturn, and by the time you got to the Dreamcast, most people were just not going to take the fucking plunge. They had come out with way too much, way too fast, and most of the people buying shit at the time were fucking 14 years old, and they don't have disposable income to keep buying all this bullshit. So yeah, 32X.
All right. Juggernaut right there.
Yeah, huge. I'm looking at one right now.
Now, why do you still collect it if it's such a piece of shit? Just because is it hard
Honestly,
to find?
No, it's just that the library is small. It's like something that I could possibly complete. Whereas something like the Nintendo library is like over 700 games.
Right.
You know, I'll never complete that, especially with the way games are priced now. I mean, I might never complete this 32X collection. The most expensive game is like $400, and I can't see myself spending that.
Is it? What game is it?
It's Spider-Man.
Oh,
It's not good.
Yeah,
It's not good.
Every time I think Spider-Man, I think of the one from Atari.
Oh, that was horrid.
Fucking trash.
Wow.
All right, Mark.
All right, so for my first one, I'm going to go right back to the article I was talking about in my news section, where remember how I said it mentioned that Sega was coming out? Well, it did mention that Sega was coming out, and it actually does say that it says that it's getting glowing reviews and orders from retailers are surpassing expectations. I didn't really want to give away one of my other picks because we're going to hot products, and my first one, of course, is going to be the Sega Genesis. At first, Sega didn't have a North American sales and marketing organization. They were actually moving all their stuff through Tonka. So when they wanted to come to America, they tried to sell the Genesis to Atari. Atari actually declined the project, saying they thought the console was too expensive. So Atari could have purchased the Sega Genesis at first, but they decided not to. And on August 14th, 1989, Sega decided to go it alone, and they launched the console throughout the United States subsidiary, and they launched it first on August 14th, 1989 in New York and in Los Angeles. And, of course, we all know the monumental success of the Sega Genesis, really driving gaming forward. And I found a quote from U.S. Gamer's Jeremy Parrish, and he really sums this up perfectly. It says, if the Atari generation introduced video games as a short-lived 70s fad, then the NES generation established it into an enduring obsession for the young. Sega Genesis began pushing the medium towards something resembling its contemporary form. The system served as the key incubator for modern sports franchises, made consoles truly international by putting Western third parties previously put at a disadvantage by Nintendo's restrictive licensing policies with a more profitable alternative. It created an online subscription service that foreshadowed PlayStation by more than 15 years and played a key role in enduring the vitality of the gaming industry by breaking into the U.S. market and establishing a market in the U.K. And really that kind of sums it up. I know it touches upon what Mike talked about, and it really foreshadows a little more into the future than what we're talking about, and that's just the initial launch of this product. But that's my first hot product, the Sega Genesis. And in case you're wondering, they sold 30.75 million of these units were sold. The first party units were sold in the worldwide. 30.75 million worldwide.
All right.
All right.
What's your second product?
My second product, we're going to take a little time trip. Because in 1889, Nintendo was at the forefront of handheld gaming. They were a playing card company. 100 years later, it changed the game of handheld gaming again, of course, with the Game Boy. It was first released on April 21st, 1989 in Japan, followed by the North American release 3 months later. The Game Boy received praise for its battery life, durability, and it quickly outsold the competition, selling 1 million units in the United States within just a few weeks. Together with its successor, the Game Boy Color, it sold an estimated 118 million units worldwide, making it the third best-selling console of all time. It's one of the most recognizable devices from the 1980s. It's become a cultural icon, just the photo or the picture of the Game Boy itself. I had one. I know everyone else had one. So there we go. The Game Boy, 1989.
All right, let's make this one quick. I'm going to give this one to 89. It had 2 systems come out. And obviously, we talked about Sega Genesis before. They were ahead of their time, and they really pushed the envelope with everything else. So you got to give it that. And then with Game Boy, that just put the games in our hands instead of those cheap shit little LED game systems that we were playing. We actually got, even though it was a monochrome screen, that green monochrome, we still got some cool freaking games. It started out with Tetris, which was out for years, but it was amazing on a handheld. So that was huge. You had Super Mario Land was another one that I played a lot, which was pretty cool because it played pretty much just like the first game. So I think with all the picks that are out there, you guys had good stuff too. Bo, your games were great. But yeah, I'm gonna have to go with 89 there.
Dueling Decades.